Today, the Kirby franchise of games is pretty much synonymous with other Nintendo greats, such as the Super Mario series, The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and Donkey Kong. Like many slightly obscure Nintendo characters, Kirby experienced a huge popularity boost through the introduction of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Known for his wide repertoire of moves gained through absorbing other enemies, his games usually have a high action feel to them even though they have an overall cutesy aesthetic. Often featuring near beat-em-up style gameplay mechanics with certain power-ups and also shoot-em-up stages, his games appeal to a wide range of gamers. However, his first game took a slightly more simplistic approach, yet it's still overall a pretty fun platforming experience. Released in 1992 for the original Game Boy, Kirby's Dreamland introduced the pink protagonist to the world, sending players on a quest to recover the food stolen from all of Dreamland's inhabitants by the hands of the greedy King DDD. Being the first game of the Kirby franchise, he features a much more toned down moveset than in future games here. He still has this ability to inhale enemies and spit them back out as projectiles, but he does not have any of his copy abilities or slide attacks as in future titles. He also has the ability to inhale air to float around and use the air as a projectile as well in case you don't have any enemies to inhale at the time. A good deal of his series' staple power-ups are featured in the first game, however. The hot curry that lets Kirby automatically spit out fire is introduced here, as well as the Maxim tomato which replenishes his life all the way to 100. Both items which can be seen in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise even today, so I guess you could call those legacy items of sorts. Also, the Invincibility Lollipop is featured here as a sort of an analog to the Invincibility Star in Super Mario Bros., allowing Kirby to crush any enemies that cross his path without any harm coming to our protagonist. The microphone power-up was also introduced in Kirby's Dreamland, but that became relegated to an enemy-based power-up in future titles. Evidently, the first time I saw the hot curry power-up back in the day on the original Game Boy, it looked like to me a bowl of ice cream, so I'm not sure why I thought that him eating a bowl of ice cream would enable him to spit out a constant stream of fireballs, but I thought that was just some sort of Nintendo logic that I was missing back in the day. That being said, the lack of copy abilities and smaller, more concise amount of power-ups seem to allow for Kirby's Dreamland to have a more simplistic yet focused approach when it comes to gameplay. It's not that challenging, however, it's not exactly a pushover either, making you have to use your abilities to the best of your ability to be able to defeat each boss and come out on top in each stage. As always, I have to comment on the game's soundtrack, and here Jun Ishikawa delivered a masterful set of music for Kirby's Dreamland. Each stage theme evokes the feel of the stage perfectly, and while most people think of green greens whenever you bring up Kirby's music, as it's pretty much an iconic track akin to Super Mario Bros. 1-1, for me, Kirby's Dreamland's best track is for Float Island. Nostalgia and bias may factor into it a bit, since I've always had a thing for soundtracks such as Super Adventure Island, the initial stages of Sonic Adventure, and of course Angel Island from Sonic 3. But Float Islands just seems to really embody that spring breeze feel that the Kirby aesthetic has always tried to draw from all the way until today's games. It's a very cool and refreshing track, if you will. All in all, I do think that Kirby's Dreamland is definitely worth revisiting, even if you've only had experience with recent Kirby titles. Although it's lacking copy abilities, it does have its fair share of strengths that far outweigh its weaknesses. And it's always nice to go back and see where a franchise got its beginnings from. It does have a fair amount of replay value through its New Game Plus mode, which is earned after beating the final boss and is unlocked via a key combination that you have to put in at the title screen. It features harder enemies and changed up boss patterns, so it'll give you a fair challenge after you finish the main game. And of course, like I say, it's nice to revisit it every so often. That way you don't burn yourself out on Kirby, of course. Today, you could probably snag an actual cartridge of Kirby's Dreamland on Amazon or eBay for about $5 to $10. You can also go with the import version, since there's not very much in the way of dialogue that you would need to understand. It's pretty much pure action through and through. It's also available on the 3DS Virtual Console if you want to go digital. Either way, check it out. You definitely won't be disappointed.